Welcome to Dawn of a Story. This is more than a podcast. It's a place where we speak the truth, tell the stories that shape us, and honor the moments that made us who we are. I created the space because I believe storytelling is how we connect, how we heal, and how we remember who we are. Some stories are still being written. Some are full of laughter. Some have changed everything, but all of them matter. Whether it's my story or one of my guests, my hope is that you hear something that resonates, that reminds you that you are not alone and encourages you to tell your story too. So settle in because every story starts somewhere, and this one starts now. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Dawn of a Story. I'm your host, Dawn Pascal. I'm so very grateful you decided to spend your time with me and my guest this week, Lisa Troyano-Ascolese. Every show, we will be exploring a new theme, and this week's theme is Grace and Grit. I'm joined by a woman who embodies resilience and reinvention. She has built a thriving business while navigating some of life's most difficult challenges. Her journey is one of strength, heart, and determination. A reminder that both grace and grit, we can find our way through loss into new beginnings. So let me tell you a little about my guest. Lisa is the owner and licensed partner of Angle Invokers, Hoboken and Jersey City, where she leads with a unique blend of vision, determination, and heart. With a career built on resilience and reinvention, Lisa has turned personal challenges into sources of strength, embodying the balance of grace and grit. Under her leadership, both Angle Invokers, Hoboken, and Jersey City have become a trusted name in real estate, known for exceptional service and community connection. Beyond her business success, Lisa is passionate about empowering others to embrace change, navigate life's challenges, and discover the beauty of new beginnings. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Love that intro. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you. How you doing?
You too. It's been a long time. I'm
Yes, it
great. Thank you.
has.
How are you?
Good. Very good. Very good.
You
So
too.
let's start. The theme is grace and grit. So when you think about those two words, what do they mean to you in the context of your journey?
I mean, I think in any turn, you have to have both, either some grace in some instances and then followed by grit, or some grit in some instances and then followed by grace. But I think they're two concepts that work hand in hand, certainly in my life, and it seems like most entrepreneurial lives. So yeah, I think they're not mutually exclusive concepts.
Right. I agree. Absolutely. Sometimes it's about allowing yourself the space to be okay with maybe things not happening the way that you want them to, but also then still having that determination to press forward and achieve what it is that you want to achieve. There is
Yeah.
definitely a delicate balance. So you have faced some very profound losses and there were times of starting over. Can you share one of those instances that felt like a true turning point for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the biggest one was I lost my mom. She was 56. I was 30 at the time. And I was just leaving corporate America to kind of become I had kids event planning business at the time, and I was starting my real estate journey, and she was a realtor on a high level. And so it was a very big turning point in my life. And then she unfortunately got very sick and passed away very quickly. So that was probably, I mean, talk about the birth of grace and grit. That was, trying to help her battle cancer is what she passed away from, but while simultaneously like starting an entire new life, and one that I think most people would find a little, unconventional, so to speak. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, certainly not at that time period. So that was probably the turning point for me. That was basically where I was like, okay, this is life is real, and we gotta get after this like right now and get my stuff together, so to speak. And then after she passed very quickly. After she passed, I went on to lose a couple other very close people to me in real estate, and I think in each time you revert back to that, okay, I did it for her. She was my everything. My mother was like my best friend, like the best. She was one of the best people on the planet. And you kind of go back and you're just like, you almost weigh them against each other. You're just like, okay, it's not that. I got through that. That was the worst possible thing I could have thought of. And so I'm gonna do this. And then as I went further on, I ended up almost passing away in childbirth. And my daughter as well. Thank God we're both okay. But that was another time we were just like, whoa, like it's just like life literally, it gives you a really nice perspective on life. That's the blessing of any kind of tragedy that you
Mhm,
go through or trauma,
mhm.
is that, I don't take a single second for granted. And so I think that was really the turning point of that mentality.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what helped you find resilience in all of those moments? That's not easy.
I mean, it's probably something that my therapist would have a field day with, but I basically just poured into other people. So it was like,
Mm.
okay, I had this business I started and I had this career I was going with, and I had to focus on that. And then I had, my sister at the time was only 20.
Wow.
So my sister was young, my brother was 4 years my junior, so he's sorry, I haven't done this math in a while. He was 26 at the time. And my dad was young. My dad was it was also, I don't even think he was 60. So I basically poured into making sure they were okay, making sure my business was thriving. And I think a therapist like recently went back and was just like, you just spent 10 years distracting. And I was like, yeah, probably.
Wow.
It's probably what it was, but it got me through. And like, shrinks are angels among men. And here we are. So for me, I used it as a source of strength and just kind of motivation to distract and move on and try and, do something with the grief.
So how has your relationship with yourself evolved through all those experiences of losses, and I would even say rebirth, right? Because when we go through that level of loss, there is a certain amount of rebirth that we are going through.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime if anybody's ever been around someone when they pass away, and again, I've had the privilege of that happening 3 times, it's or even dealing with your own mortality. It's a very humbling experience, and I am very hard on myself from I've always been my whole life. And so I think it just makes you kind of take a step back and be like, none of this matters. None of these emails I need to get back to matter. None of this disaster matters. Like, it just, are you breathing? Is this person okay? Did they have a nice day? And it just kind of, it's very humbling and it's very centering. So I think that was pretty much it. It is a privilege to be with people at that stage of their life. It's hard. It's the worst thing you'll go through, but it is very centering in the sense that you're just like, okay, none of this matters. Literally nothing else matters except life and death, and that's what you have to focus on in those instances.
How do you find the balance every day?
I have a
Not
wonderful
easy.
I have a phenomenal nanny. No,
Wow,
that's
okay.
there is no balance. I mean, I have a friend that wrote a book, oh god, now I want to. It's like the balance. Excuse me, cursing on here, but balance is bullshit, and it's true. There's no balance. Anybody that tells you they have a balance is either failing at one part of their life. It's just you have different times where you need to focus on different things, and it's
Right.
like, there were years when certainly COVID, where it was like, okay, I have to work. My agents are my top priority. Then there were years, when we were recovering from birth, and I was like, this is my top priority, and like something else is going to give, and that's just reality of things. Anybody that's telling you or convincing people to find balance actually really bothers me, because it's like there is none. You can't be successful at something without diving into it 100%.
Yeah, I also use the term balance to make sure that you consider yourself a priority in your life. There were many years that I did not consider myself a priority in my own life, and my work and my own business didn't suffer, but I suffered throughout that. So that's kind of like where my mind goes when I talk about balance, right? It's allowing yourself some grace to say, "Yeah, it's okay. Maybe I can sit down for 5 minutes. Maybe it's okay that I give myself a meal and enjoy it before I go back to the grind," kind of thing.
I mean, that's yes, when you put it that way, I had no balance whatsoever for 10 years. I mean, it was like between grief and work and the trajectory of my career was taking off, and there was really no time to take care of myself. So like, yeah, I took a yoga class here, or like breathwork class here, but over the time, certainly over COVID, I had gained like 40 pounds, and I
Oh,
was like,
God.
my whole body was inflamed, and I've been working with 4 doctors to get my body back. I mean, that was certainly after the bad birth, but like all of that, like it's terrible what we do to ourselves. And I think it's really talking to somebody and they're like, oh, this holistic stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's necessary. It's like
Yeah.
I was grabbing whatever I could eat. And I'm a good eater. Like I'm usually pretty, I source my food, like I cook most meals. And even then, it's you can't help it. If you have 2 places to be and you're lightheaded, you're gonna grab a slice of pizza. So,
Right.
I think to answer your question, I had none. I had absolutely none, which I think it contributed to a lot of my success. So,
Mhm.
again, it goes back to that balance conversation of if can you have balance and be successful? I don't know. But I will say now that is the turning point. I will never take my personal health for granted ever again.
So how has motherhood changed your life? Yeah, I mean, I know you a while. We go back. I lived in Hoboken.
It's like, where do we start?
Yes, yeah. So where do you start? Where do you start with that? Sure. How has motherhood changed your life?
I mean, I think we were I mean, but your listeners probably don't. We were never considering having kids. We were planning on not having children. And we were blessed with a surprise, and she is the best thing that ever happened to us. I think on some level we were I think for me, and again, this is a very we're diving right in here, Don. I
We
think there
are.
were there was a lot of like unresolved mom stuff. There was a
Sure.
lot of like, I didn't want to feel anything, and that kids make you feel everything. You're catching me on a week we had to put her in preschool for the first time. I don't know that I cried this much in years. Um,
Oh, Lisa.
I know it's hard. So it's they center you, they prioritize it. I mean, everything is for her. There's not immediately it went from caring about myself to caring about someone else.
Mhm.
Everything's for her. And so it shifts your focus, it shifts your time management, and it shifts your priorities like crazy. I mean, I will never spend 10 minutes talking to somebody that I don't want to talk to anymore. And that it's
Right.
literally gets that granular. It's crazy.
Wow, wow. How has all of that trickled then into the business? Because if the structure of your life is different, then
Mhm.
and that's your personal life, then obviously your business is you. So how
Yep.
is that translated over to the business?
So I think in the beginning I was a little postpartum. Like now looking back, if somebody asked me, I would have told you no. But now looking back on it, I was trying to figure things out. Again, I was not planning the pregnancy. So it was a very like I felt like everything was happening to me.
Right.
And then once you kind of come out of that cloud, it's like, oh, this is awesome. I just need to like embrace this and like make the certain changes. And if I was being honest, I was too old for the bar scene anyway. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah,
like I was
right, right.
I was never a big drinker. I just liked like being around people. So it was one of those things that like the changes that were made were probably long overdue. And then again, business thrived. I've done better. And people told me that. People were like, you're watched, you're gonna be surprised at how because all your time in the office becomes time in the office. And then when you're home, you're home. And that was a promise I made to myself from jump. I was like, if I'm with her, I'm with her. No phones, no nothing. And then I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's, you know, easy and everyone can jump into it. I have a nanny. I have a full-time nanny. She is a massive number on the P&L and she is a full-time employee, and that's
Yeah.
how we're able to do it because my husband's an entrepreneur as well. So it's the only way we're able to do it. We don't have family help. So I mean, I'm just going to say the thing that you're probably not supposed to say, but hiring someone is the reason I'm functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's an extra set of hands. I don't think anybody would ever wanna hear that somebody's struggling with something in
yeah,
their life, whether it's struggling to try to keep all the balls balanced or all the plates spinning, and, I know how it feels alone just to have had my own business, and you are the dancing bear in the circus, spinning all the plates and trying to keep that going. So now to add then a family
yeah.
plus a young child into that mix, girl, that's a lot. I understand
Well,
that.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but like I said, I don't know that I was ever I was never very good at being like super organized and super like I was very motivated person, but I was like an A to like Z person versus like
Right.
now I separate, I compartmentalize. I'm doing this for this many hours and I'm doing this for this. So in a lot of ways, it made me a much better worker, boss, employee, agent. It made me better across the board because I have like limits now. I
Right.
respond very well to limits now.
Wow, wow. So I do know, a little bit of your personal backstory, and I do know that you lost a very instrumental person and mentor in your life. So, can we talk about him?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, anybody that knew Nick Costantino would tell you the exact same thing. He was I mean, aside from being charismatic and happy all the time, also he was battling this incredibly chronic disease, cystic fibrosis, that usually takes kids. When he was diagnosed, they told him he wouldn't live past 13 years old, and
Wow.
he made it to 4 months before his 50th birthday. And I mean, he's just the most inspirational person. And we didn't know. Half the time that we knew him, he kept it secret, which is wild when you know about that disease. Like, it's so debilitating. The fact that we never knew. I mean, he has to do chest PT twice a day and all this stuff. The fact that we all traveled together, we didn't know. I mean, crazy.
Wow.
Um, he was the original owner of this company. He was just amazing. When he was in the ICU, those last few days of his life, they had to hire police presence. He would the line was down the thing just to say goodbye to him. It was incredible. He was an incredible human being, and I was lucky to be in his airspace for the time that I was. Um, and I use that term airspace, pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the reason I do a lot of work with cystic fibrosis now. I'm on their board because of him and the work he and I did together. We ran a gala in Hoboken, which
Hmm.
raised, over the 5 years, we raised almost $300,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it went right into his doctors. Like, we wrote them a check for 300 grand. There was nobody took any salaries or anything like that. So it was a very pivotal part of my life. He changed my entire life. He's the reason my husband started his own law firm. He's the reason, you know, I own this company. On his deathbed, he asked me to save this company. I mean, crazy. Any way that
Wow.
you can affect someone's life, he affected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about turning a hardship into something completely completely different. I didn't know. I mean, I knew about him, and I knew about the gala,
Yeah,
and
you
the
big part
other
of it. Yeah.
events, and yeah, and a lot of the stuff that you did in Hoboken locally. But anyway, but talk about, like, really talk about learning and understanding what impact this person made in your life, and how that level of loss yet again, right, led you into a completely different path.
Yep. Honestly, the losses in my life have been forks in the road and completely made me go in another direction.
Wow.
It's every single one. And there was, I think it was, I don't want to misquote him, but I think it was Stephen Colbert, I want to say. And they said
Mhm.
that, like, the loss that he had, I forget who he was talking about, was one of the biggest blessings in his life. And I remember being in it and being like, what are you talking about? And now that I'm, 300 feet above it and looking down, they really were. They were like, when you are that connected to somebody and you lose them,
Mhm.
the perspective you get on the back end once you're out of the craziness,
Right.
it's is incredible. It's I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but it's
Mhm.
also, if you could, come out of it and see it for what it is, it's been life-changing, every single one.
What words of wisdom, if I can word it that way, do you have for someone who's in the thick of the hardship and hasn't come out of that, I don't want to say bubble, who hasn't come out of that time being able to either go through the grieving process, or they're at that fork in the road and they're not sure if they should take that new path? What words of wisdom do you have for them?
I mean, one of the best things that were given to me was just keep going. I mean, there's so many terrible stories now you hear of suicides, and the
Yeah.
suicide rates are up and all these people giving up, and I get it. I get when you're in it, like, how bad it seems, but, like, you can't see how good it's gonna be until you're way out of it. So, like, if you can just keep going, you will get to a place where you can look back and be like, "Wow, I did that," and then it becomes a source of accomplishment in a weird way, like, I got through that. So,
Right.
I mean, that would be my advice, and then it's probably not the advice of shrinks, but I really dove into things that made me happy, um, healthy, legal things that made me
Mhm.
happy,
Right.
like
Right.
building a business, turning something around, focusing on a person that I needed to focus on. So I think that like, growing agents was one of my. I was so overwhelmed by the concept of someone coming to me and looking to me to guide them in their business, and now I have like 4 or 5 under my, like, history that, like, are really doing it, and they've left other jobs and they're doing it full time. And I can't. It's been the highlight of my career as a broker, and it's something that, like, was so overwhelming when I first thought about it. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my god, can you imagine if I didn't do this? If I didn't dive into these
Right.
people, I would never feel this way. So my advice is either dive in, keep going, and just wait, because it's going to get good. It's going to get really good. You just have to get there. And it could, unfortunately, like I used to try and type my way out of grief or change. Like I used to be like, okay, if I do this, or I talk to this trauma specialist, or if I do this and I do this by like Wednesday, September 15th, I'm going to be fine. Like you have to just kind of go through it. And that's probably the hardest part, especially for people that are business owners, because as you know, it's like, it's the hardest thing to just trust things. Like if you don't see it on paper and can quantify it, it's very hard for you to just be like, let's go,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, look, I know change hurts, but that pain and hurt to me, and I don't have any children, is a birthing process. Sometimes there is a little pain in order to break whatever barrier it is,
Yeah.
or to allow yourself to get to that next step and sort of push through. I totally get it.
It's also, I think people, when they talk to entrepreneurs and they talk about entrepreneurship, they always talk about success. The failures are
Yeah,
sometimes the best thing.
of
Like
course they are.
the decision to close, I had very close people to me keep a business going for a very long time when they should not have.
Right.
And the decision to make that stop, to stop the bleeding, is arguably one of the most important decisions you'll make as an entrepreneur. Um, and just knowing when you're to pivot. Like, so I was doing the kids' event planning party. It was going great. I had that going great and real estate going great. And I was either going to color with 5-year-olds or I was going to sell $2 million apartments. And I was like, I'm going to go do this. Right. So
Right, right.
and looking back on it, I should have sold it. I had a product to sell. I didn't. I just closed the doors. And that was arguably a really hard decision because I had left corporate to do the kids' parties.
Right.
And when I got into it, I was like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this at all. So I think people overlook how important the failures or the decisions not to do things are.
Right. Oh, no, I get it. It was a very hard decision to close the doors. I've said this many different guests on many different episodes of the podcast, but I allowed myself the ability to become a priority in my own life. And in
Yeah.
doing that, I said it's a no brainer. I can't continue this anymore. And also, there is a dedicated COVID episode, and we talk about that. And that was a special circumstance of events in 2020. And we're not gonna go into that now. But if that didn't happen, maybe things would have been very different, or maybe
Right.
not very different, but maybe detrimental to me, right? Because again, I was not a priority. So
And that's also like, I don't know why you closed or the details or anything. So forgive me if I'm over speaking here, but that's also like, that's an existential circumstance that had nothing to do with you, came
right,
into our world. And uh, imagine you didn't make it. You were smart to make the decision to close. What if you just kept
right,
going because you had
yeah,
ego or because you decided it was, I mean, that would have been a disaster, right? So like,
right.
I think
No,
people don't give themselves enough credit for the decisions that they make against what they think was supposed to happen.
right. Believe me, I battled for many years with the guilt of
Sure.
feeling that I gave up and the feeling of failure as a bad thing, right? Now, look, I'm on the other side of it and I've put it to bed and I've put it to rest and I've made my peace with it and I've forgave myself for all the stupid decisions that I ever made throughout my life to continue on. I mean, I basically hemorrhaged for a year from
Mhm.
2020 to 2021 and I was at maybe a 45 to 50% loss every single month, but I thought, "Oh, I can do this. I can get past it." And then I woke up one day and I was like, "What in God's
I
green earth am I
do.
doing?"
Right. Yep. But I mean, that's not even, if you think about it, that's not even bad. That's 1 year. Thank God you
Yeah.
made the decision after 1 year.
Yeah,
You
I
have
couldn't
people
do it
that stay in
anymore.
it for 15 years to keep up appearances that you're the owner of X, Y, and Z. It's so stupid. And it's
Yeah,
like, I saw something recently that was like a good entrepreneur fails upward. And it's true. Just keep like get out of it as fast as possible, start something else. And the energy that you put into owning a
yeah.
business and you think about it all the time and you love it, that energy then can go so many different places. And it's
Right,
like, what are you not jumping on that maybe you love? I don't know if you love this stuff, but maybe you could be a photographer. Maybe you came up with an
right,
app idea, or maybe you did something like you can't even explore that because your brain is so in savior mode that it's like
right.
it's the hardest thing I think in entrepreneurship to learn, but it's the most important. Like,
Yeah, no,
don't wait around. Just
I
get
get
out.
it. I get it. I get it. Right on. I totally get it.
Mhm.
when you look ahead, how do you carry both the lessons and the love from your past into the way you live today?
Deep questions, Dawn. My daughter, it's it. But I came from good stock. Like my cousin Leslie says it all the time. We have good stock, man. We have good people, work hard, did some big things. Like I feel like as long as that's at the core and we just want to make her into like a good person. That's
Yeah.
like every time she leaves, we say, be kind. And she's like, what does that mean? And I'm just like, you have no idea, but I'm going to keep saying it until you get it. Like, you just have to like, got to raise good humans, man. The world needs some good humans right now.
Yeah. Well, look, Lisa, you're a reflection of your parents, and she's a reflection of you. So, you doing everything that you've done in the memory of your mother and what she taught you, and you providing that framework and foundation for your daughter, you're doing it right, girl. You're doing it right.
Let's
Yeah,
hope.
right on.
Let's
So, before we go, I ask every guest the same question because I believe the stories we leave behind say so much about how we showed up in the world. So, Lisa, tell me what's one story, big or small, that you hope people remember you for?
wow. Honestly, the gala. I That was probably one of the most selfless and impactful things I've ever done with my life. I I've done a lot of interesting things, I like to think, but that was the one that I was like, I remember standing in the back of that room that first night, and I remember being like, "Wow, we did this. We pulled this off."
Right.
And that was probably a highlight of my life. That was one of the most amazing things I'd like to be known for. And then we went on, it was his dying wish for that. So I think that he passed away between year 4 and year 5, and that was really his goal, was to do something really big for the doctors that saved his life, and so I was a way to facilitate that, and that was, yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I hope I'm remembered for those efforts.
Well, that's a beautiful legacy. It really is. I mean, look, I can talk to you for hours. I know that you're a very busy person. I just want to thank you wholeheartedly that we made this work and that we're here together and we had this beautiful conversation today. And thank you for being part of the story. And I want to thank everyone for tuning into this episode of Dawn of a Story. If something you heard today moved you, made you laugh, or made you think, share it with someone you love. Please like and subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling brave, I'd love to hear your story by commenting below. It helps other story lovers find us too. If you'd like to connect with Lisa and Angle Invokers, she can be contacted through info@myhomeboken.com. And I will also put that in the show notes. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep telling your story. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
this was
so much.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.